I was 11 and I remember sitting my parents down in our living room and telling them I want to go study abroad, right? And my parents are like, "You don't speak English. We don't have any family in America, and you don't, you don't know anyone there. Why do you want to go? Like, is your life bad here?" Like, and I was like, no, 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 no. It's just when, if anybody knows South Korea, they have they're very competitive in terms of like education systems. I was literally living for free. Of course, I bought the house sort of that needed a little work, cosmetic works. So I needed to do some work, but it only took like a month, maybe 20K. And minimum down payment, and that's literally how I got started in investing in real estate, right? And then that quickly became sort of my main motivation to like save those like rental incomes, and then that speed up the process of like saving for other houses, right?
House hacking can accelerate not only your financial wealth and freedom, but also it can help you almost live for free at your house. Today, I'm bringing you Chloe. And the reason why I'm bringing Chloe is that she has been an example of resilience, bravery, brain, smart, and many other things. But her story behind that and how she get to the US have even been more inspirational than what I have heard in many people. So let's welcome Chloe. Chloe, how are you today?
Hi, Jen. I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, I'm super excited because I know our audience will enjoy so much just hearing about your story. And more than anything, too, how have you mastered the house hacking strategy to live for free at your home and also increase your financial freedom and wealth? And I will start with that. How do you decide to start house hacking? What happened?
Yeah, so when I first got started like investing in real estate, I first got into, my primary house, right? And originally when I looked at it, I was looking at a bunch of different houses and quickly found out that, increasing property tax and other expenses, right? And the future is going to be a challenge, having those mortgage payments and property taxes. It just is really hard to think about those expenses, ongoing for the future, right? So I met some other women who's also doing some real estate investing, and because Austin is an expensive city to live in. I wanted to kind of offset that expenses, right? So yeah, I found other women who were also house hacking, and that's how I got started in real estate investing, just with my primary residence, taking leveraging those favorable terms, and it's a lot easier to get loans with your W-2 when it's your primary house, right? Yeah, so I just found house that worked with the layout for house hacking, and it was insane. Like, I was literally living for free. Of course, I bought the house sort of that needed a little work, cosmetic works. So I needed to do some work, but it only took like a month, maybe 20K. And minimum down payment, and that's literally how I got started in investing in real estate, right? And then that quickly became sort of my main motivation to like save those like rental incomes, and then that speed up the process of like saving for other houses, right? And so I got into more like Airbnb, started buying other houses. I started getting into development, so I started developing houses, right? All of those, I think, wouldn't have happened in the timeline that happened if it wasn't for house hacking.
Wow. If I'm hearing this correctly, and I have experienced this too, house hacking was your first stepping stone, not only to find a way to afford your home today, because right now affordability through all the markets is being challenged, but also it helps you, inspire you to grow your portfolio, your wealth, and it allow you to get into other different properties. Was your experience that investing in house hacking first? allow you to get into investing in real estate maybe in a lower entry point, like the investment was less if you would start just by buying regular property?
Investing, yeah, of course, yeah. So because, residential properties are just what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mae, that's what they want you to do, right? They want to encourage you to own homes, right? So it does have really favorable terms, way better than, commercial terms, right? Loan terms. So yeah, and there's a lot of different programs like you can there's FHA, you can put down as little as 3.5% of the down payment, right? There's just a lot of things that you can leverage when you're going to be the one who's living there, right? So of course they can't check once you actually buy the house and live there for at least a year. Then you don't have any obligations for living in the property. So my original thought was I will buy a house every single year, saving that 3.5% down payment, which isn't too bad if you're considering, oh, okay, I'm gonna buy more lower price homes that need some work, right? Taking, calculating all of that, it just becomes a lot faster snowballing method. And of course, house hacking is not for everyone. I know some of my friends who are kind of considering house hacking. They consider a lot of different things like, oh, I don't want to have roommates. I don't want to Airbnb. I don't want, strangers, living in my house, near my house, that I don't know. I have a family, I have kids, right? Which is really valid concern. But, I don't have any kids right now. I only have my dog. So it was just a easier, process and for me to just get started, right? Because and also another thing that helped me was my philosophy is like you should at least experience anything once, right? So like things like property management, which I'm not really, I don't love property management. So over the last year and a half, I've basically converted all of my property management into a professional managers, right? But I think having that like first time like landlording experience also really helps you to know the ins and outs of okay, what happens? How do you like rent out spaces? How do you optimize your taxes, right? How does all of these things work? I think that really helps you to sort of understand, the education side of the real education side of real estate, which, no one really talks about, right?
Yes.
So it's really good to just experience that yourself, and then you can sort of start streamlining those processes when you have multiple properties.
Yes, I mean I think that's amazing advice. Experience at least once. I remember, like you, I started with house hacking, and I was uncomfortable having someone on my house doing a short-term rental. However, what I did is I found a duplex, and that allowed me to not only get into the market of Los Angeles for a very low price, right? I got my 401k, and as I put it as a down payment that allowed me to get into a duplex, and I got an FHA loan, but I rent the other side, and that covered most of my mortgage expenses. And that was my first investment that it resulted in $250,000 of profit 4 years later. And that
Mhm.
allowed me to get into other projects too, as
Right.
you scale that portfolio. And I think that's a great advice. You need to experience, and then you figure out. I also manage my property, and I'm like, okay, this is not for me.
No.
Get a professional managing this. It's never a good idea when people ask me, do you want to manage your own property? I'm like, no, not at all. Not at all. And I think it's what happens. But Chloe, I gotta ask you this. You started house hacking in Austin, Texas, a very expensive market. How much money do you invested in this property, and how do you save up this money?
Yeah, so I basically had a $500 in my bank account when I bought this house. Because I just finished my master's, my grad school. So I became a data scientist, got a job at a good company, and then I basically leveraged my sign-on bonus as a down payment, right? And then put part of the renovation cost on my credit card. And part of the reason why I did that, because I don't like holding, debts like credit card debts, is like, because I have W-2, I knew that whatever happens, I will be able to cover whatever expenses there will be, right? I can cover all my mortgage and expenses and then some. So to me, it was more like a calculated risk than anything. And then, once you have W-2, it's just easier to get loans, right? Literally, if you have just like an offer letter, and you haven't even gotten paid, or maybe you have one paycheck, it's still valid, right? So having W-2 just like makes it really easy. Even if you don't have W-2, let's say you're self-employed, it's still, you can still get loans. You just have to have like a 2 years of, showing your income, tax returns. But yeah, that's just how I got started. W-2, well, like many other people, I was working as a data scientist, right? Yeah, and then that's how I got started.
Yes, no, for sure. And what really surprises me too is like you really adopted not only the tactical stuff on how you do it, right? So for anybody looking to how do I start in real estate, this is a great example on how they can do it with minimum cash on their hands. But you have accelerate your portfolio into other type of properties from development to short-term rentals. What was the journey and some of the lessons you learned as you are growing this portfolio?
Oh yeah. So what I didn't know at the time when I bought it, because I made the calculation sort of based on the current prices of, expenses of what was going to be, I didn't account for the fact that my property tax could, increase 30%, in 1 year, right? That's something that I just didn't expect. And, those expenses, they're real and you don't really know. You can't really underwrite this for and forecast this in the future. Because there's a lot of uncertainty with that. Yeah, so that's one thing, is that there's never a true pro forma, like true numbers that you can write. So you have to account for a lot of different scenarios, right? And then also another lesson that I've learned is, there are seasonalities to anything, including, your market cycle, as well as rental cycle. So there's high seasons and low seasons. And so, originally I was just going to do short-term rental, quickly found out that COVID happened right after. So I couldn't do short-term rental. So I had to pivot into midterm rental, right? And that requires different set of amenities because people have to live there longer term. So I think when you're analyzing these properties, having multiple exit strategies is really important. And also one thing that I found out is once you do a renovation and you kind of look at other properties and you do a similar or even better job, or maybe better designs or better materials or whatever, that effect of the force appreciation is amazing, right? So that's something that I just didn't realize how much it could be. So I think that's why, most of the millionaires, when they get started, real estate is a really big part of how they build their wealth, is because, of these things, right? It's really hard to build up a saving of 300K in a few years, right? But definitely it's very possible with real estate if you're on the right cycle, right? So things like that, I just didn't know before I got started, but when I got into these, that I learned, right? So when I got started with this first house hack, my plan was like, okay, let's let's do the same thing, right? I know how this process works. I know how to rent it now and all that stuff. But with COVID, the properties just were just really expensive, and I could no longer do that, right? Within the foreseeable future, in the same plan that I set up, right? So then I was like, okay, let me like read a bunch of different things. Like I listened to a lot of podcasts and talk to a lot of people virtually, right? Who are doing different strategies. So I talked to people from doing flipping to development to investing in commercial assets, like multifamily, shopping centers, self-storage, things like that. And I was doing underwriting on every single asset strategy that I can think of that I can do, right? And it just didn't, the numbers didn't make sense, like that I wanted to see, right? And then so I met with this guy who is a big multifamily developer here in Austin, and he was kind of explaining the concept of development. And I never thought about development before. And when he kind of explained that, he did say building in Austin is one of the most challenging cities in America. And I was like, okay. But I was like, I heard what he was saying, and I was like, I feel like I can do it. I love learning. I love challenges. And whatever he was talking about, it was exciting to me, right? So I'm like, I'm just gonna learn everything. I'm gonna reach out to people. I'm gonna just talk to as many people I can and find out what this is about. And then so I was like, okay, let me do this. So I started developing as a build to rent. So I wanted to build as a Airbnb spaces, right? And it was during COVID. It was, supply chain issues and all that stuff was very challenging. But it happened. And I was like, I actually really love development, right? I love the concept of like building something from nothing. There was nothing before, and now there's going to be this great space that a lot of people get to enjoy and make memories. And that's just really meaningful. So I love development. So that's how I landed in development.
That's awesome. As you mentioned, I think you love the fact that you can experience at least once and figure out if this is for you. However, I know that normally people don't dare to take that challenge. So Chloe has become this woman because she has a long story on adapting, being resilient, finding the way that aligns with who she is. And Chloe, I know you have a history, right? At very young age, you decide to leave Korea and move to the States because you had a goal. What made you make that decision? And tell me about that journey, because for me, it blows my mind how you break through cultural challenges and you say Chloe is going to go for what she wants. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, so I mean, looking back, it's really crazy how I made that decision so young, but I was 11 and I remember sitting my parents down in our living room and telling them I want to go study abroad, right? And my parents are like, you don't speak English. We don't have any family in America. And you don't, you don't know anyone there. Why do you want to go? Like, is your life bad here? Like, and I was like, no, 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 no. It's just when, if anybody knows South Korea, they're very competitive in terms of like education system. So since I was second grade, I had, I think, 6 or 7 tutors right after elementary school. So I would come back home at 4:45 p.m. and I would have, 30 minutes to eat dinner. And then I would have a back-to-back tutor session until like midnight. And I'm like second grade, right? And I was on this trajectory to become a doctor. My dad's a dentist, and he was like, "You're either becoming a doctor or a dentist," right? So I was on this path. And when I was studying, I realized it's like when I saw people who are older than me, so I had cousins who are already doctors, and their life looked miserable, right? They may earn a lot of money, but they don't have time to, enjoy their time with their family, do hobbies, take care of themselves, work out, all these things. They just simply didn't have it. A lot of stress, right? So Korea is it's a small country with limited resources. It's a great country, but living there as a Korean, working there was just I can see even at a young age how challenging it's going to be, and there's not going to be a payoff. It's not going to be the life that I wanted to live, and I didn't know exactly what that life was, but I knew that it wasn't that, right? And so I was looking around, and I just decided I'm like I want to go study abroad. I want to have the chance to create the life that I want. And I want to have that opportunity. And I just don't think that it's here. Of course, like I was really blessed to have parents who were supportive, had means to send me to schools here. And I'm very thankful for that. But it was challenging. I was 11. I literally spoke like 3 sentences in English, including like, where's bathroom? I'm hungry, I'm lost. I think that's the other thing that I learned, that I knew. So yeah, I just flew my first international flight when I was 11 to Cleveland, Ohio to go to all girls school, boarding school. So that's how I got started, my journey. And um, I don't know if this is like a too heavy of a topic, but another reason that I wanted to sort of leave and explore other opportunities was um during our during my elementary school when I was there, my parents and a family member, they started a business for a construction business. So they built buildings and trying to lease them out separately as a business. And it basically went bankrupt, right, because of many different reasons, right? And I saw how money can be a stress, source of high stress when you're dealing with, paying back taxes to government, lawsuits after lawsuits. My mom, was diagnosed with cancer, and partly I think it's because of all the stress with money, right? And so I realized I'm like, I I want to be able to have the opportunity to design my own life in a way that I won't be in that environment, right? In that scenario, right? I want to learn from their mistakes and do something that I'm proud of, and I'm gonna make my parents proud of, right? So that was basically the reason why I left Korea at 11 and started this whole journey.
Wow. Well, that's a blessing. At such a young age, you make a decision that you want a different life, and you have the courage to say, I will learn new things. I will try new things because I know that I want something different. It's just not this.
Yeah.
And that's for me, it blows my mind. I understand very in a very deep way how that journey is. As you were going through this journey, being alone here in the States at such a young age, as a woman, what were some of your biggest challenges?
Oh, I mean, there were so many challenges. I think one, not having, I think, your family around when you're, at that such impressionable age. Like I think it could have really gone bad. And I think you need that kind of that boundary, that shelter that your family provides, your parents provides in terms of your maybe moral compass, your values, right? You have, support system and people who love you, right? All of those, like I had to create it for myself, right? And so I think for a lot of time, I think my biggest challenge was actually mentally. So I think because I had to survive, I was in this like survival mode for so long, because I was like, I have to survive. I have to get through this. There are all these challenges, I had to like learn how to pay taxes and like pay, these tuitions and banks and whatever when I was like 12, right? Those are challenging, but I think it's not as much as challenge as you might think, right? One, I think humans are really resilient and they're really there's a lot of power behind what we can do. I think it's just the fear that's holding us back, right? And if 11-year-old Chloe can do it, like anybody can do it, right? And I think that was one thing, the survival mode. I think that prevented a lot of deep connections, I think, because I had to build up this wall to protect myself, right? And I didn't even know that I had these walls, right? So when I became an adult, I spent years working on my trauma, all these challenges that sort of got embedded in myself, and learn how to lower these walls so that I can let other people in, and also be able to ask for help and be able to lean on other people, right? That was hardest thing ever because, for majority of my life, I couldn't lean on other people, right? I had to do everything myself. I had to figure it out, right? So in my mind, I'm like, figure it out. You can do it, like, all this stuff. But at certain point, I realized that you can't do everything by yourself. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned.
Wow, that's a pretty tough lesson because it's just you carry that until you become these other human beings. So you were living in survival mode and then you go into the growth mode. But not only that, I mean, Chloe becomes a data scientist. She goes through all of these challenges, and she also have to hit the same wall where she's doing her job, and yes, she's really good at it. However, it's not the life that she wants. You decide to take this first step and shift your life, Chloe. What was that point for you when you say, I'm making good money in the W-2, but I don't want this anymore. I want to leave the safe side and I want to explore and try new things.
Yeah.
What caused, what triggered that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was definitely certainly a trigger, like a turning point, right? So up until, when I finished my master's and became a data scientist, I was like, maybe I'll buy a condo for my first house, all this stuff. I didn't really know. And I think also the fear of what I've seen my parents go through with lawsuits and stress from a failed business, that was holding me back in terms of like, what if my life becomes like that, right? What if I fail too, right? And lose lots of money. And it wasn't actually until I joined this like female finance, like a program called Factora, and I saw other women who were just like me, right? Not from trust funds or, wealthy family or anything like that. And they were actually, house hacking, they're investing in businesses, they're saving, they're investing in different things, right? And I saw that they're doing it. And I think that's what I needed to do. Like, I needed to see an example of other women specifically who kind of looked like me, who were doing it, and they were doing it well, right? And I think that was a turning point. I was like, wow, I didn't even know what house hacking is. Like, I didn't know that you can, have rentals in your house, right? Or you can have a ADU in the back, maybe a tiny house, right? That's actually what I did right after I bought my first house. I was like, oh my God, let's optimize all this land that I have, right? Yeah, so I think that was it. Finding other role models who kind of look like me, who's doing it.
Yes, and I love that because in part, that was part of your journey, seeing it, feeling it, and not only doing it, now you have become a role model too. And you have been advising and helping other people starting with their real estate investing. When it comes to house hacking, you have that experience. And I will leave information below so people can connect with you if they're interested in getting to learn more from you how to do house hacking. However, Chloe, you're also becoming an inspiration, and other women are looking up to you, starting or growing. So, tell me, what is your goal, your vision on how you want to help women go through this journey? What really touches your heart that takes you out of the survival mode to help other women?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think because there were so many women who were my role models, I think what's important is sharing your progress, right? And I think when other people see that, it look complicated, right? It might be like a big renovation projects or development projects or anything else, investing in commercial assets and things like that. I think just sharing the progress and what you're learning as you're going along, I think that is really good because it's a representation, right? Someone that looks like me is doing it. I can do it too, right? If I can do it, anybody can do it, right? I think that's one thing that I am trying to do more of, like sharing on social media, like what my thought processes are. How do you optimize these exit strategies? What am I looking for? What were some of the real, pros and cons and real challenges and wins and all of them betweens, right? I think those like nuances and context is really important. And then also too, I think how women invest is a little bit different than how men invest, right? And I think for us, it's not just about maximizing our returns at an expense to everything, right? There are other things that are more important in life, right? Family, having deep connections and relationships, your spirituality, right? Your mental health, right? Your physical health, all of those, I think those are really important. So I think just having those kinds of, perspective on how do you design a lifestyle in a way that suits you, right? And you and your family. And that's where I want to focus a little bit more on, like meditation has been a very big part of my life. I've been meditating for 10 years now, through Vipassana and, things like that. How do you, take care of yourself when things are challenging and stressful, right? Things like that. I think all of those I want to do more, right? Your mindset, right? I think that's the most important thing about doing, anything in life, but especially in investing, I think mindset is really important, right? Because it's gonna get you through those challenging moments. So yeah, I want to talk more about that. I want to create like a course for people to go through, because I wish I had that when I got started, because now that I've been investing for a while, I realized that there's a lot of things that I didn't know, and if I knew this in advance in a way that is all laid out, I think that would have helped me a lot and really speeding up the process instead of making all these mistakes that I did and, all these sleepless nights. You can just learn from my mistake and, go on your path to your financial freedom and your time freedom, all of these stuff, right? So that's what I want to do now. And then of course, I want to do bigger things so that I think that inspires other women to be like, oh, I didn't know that you could do that, right? Let's do more together, right? I think the ultimate goal is, um, uh, you know, uh, if one woman does really well and they try to lift other women up, I think that's how you get everybody up, right? We are progressing, we're growing, we're evolving, and I don't think any of us can do it alone. So eventually I want to be able to help women to invest more, probably more passively, so that you can enjoy your life, right? Live your life by your design. I think that is such a powerful mission for life, right? That we get to decide how we can live our life. And I think that all starts from just taking that one step over, overcoming your fear and your doubt, right? That voice in your head says, do you think you can do that? Like, are you sure? And be like, well, she did it. If she can do it, of course I can do it, right? Yeah, so that's the goal.
Yes, that sounds amazing. And I know that after our conversation through one of our lunches, Chloe decides to take a step back and look at her life, why she's doing what she's doing, and how she can make it very joyful, more spiritual, and in alignment of who Chloe is. So I know you have to take a step back, evaluate your real estate portfolio, and you are taking new leaps of faith. And I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you advise to women who are scared that if they start investing and experiencing the investor's life, they're scared that one, they will lose money, that they won't have the time with family, that maybe they're going to push people away around them. And those are some of them. So, what is your advice for these women that are like freaking out? Let's call it that way, because those are the things preventing them.
Yeah, I mean, I was there. I was so scared. I really didn't have that much money. I mean, I was, literally maxing out my credit card, But, in retrospect, I think taking risks is like, exercising your muscle. I think more you do it, the less scary it becomes. And I think that's when you really try to find your own community, right? I couldn't find that community, so I actually created one when I got started, of women who are investing in real estate, right? But I think having a community really helps because it's not just about, okay, you do this and then this is going to happen, right? There's thousands and one decision that's going to affect your trajectory, right? And being in a community, you're going to hear the wins, how they did it, the challenges, different ways of handling different problems, so you just learn a lot through osmosis, and just have a support system that's going through the similar experience as you. I think that is so helpful, and that's the key, right? So find your community wherever they are. If they are not there, create a meetup. It's just so easy to do in these days. And if you have this desire, there will be other people who's feeling the similar way, right? So I think that's really important. And then two, how, I don't know about other people, but how I got over, how I overcame my fear was actually through learning. So I was really fearful because I didn't have a confidence in myself to know that whatever I'm doing is going to lead to success, right? I'm not going to lose a lot of money, all this stuff. So I needed to actually learn on my own through reading lots of books, listening to a lot of podcasts, and most importantly, because real estate is, microeconomic asset, meaning like where you are in the world is really dependent on how your investing is going to go. Right. So investing in LA is going to be different than investing in Austin, is going to be different than investing in Florida. Right. So talking to people who are doing it in your area, and then learn from them as much as possible. Right. Reach out. Like I literally, like, I remember like messaging people on LinkedIn. I remember messaging people on like Bigger Pockets forum and be like, hey, like whatever you're doing sounds really cool. Like, I found someone who's like investing in like mobile home park, and I was like, hey, like, can I just like take you out for coffee? Or like, I have these questions. And also always try to like provide value in whatever way you can, and make it easy for them, right? Remember to follow up, do what you're going to say you're going to do, right? These all sound like a basic things that everybody's like, well, I know that already. But really, if you do this consistently, there will be other people who's going to help you, because real estate, what I've found is like people are so friendly. They all want to help you. It's an abundance mindset. They're not trying to be like, oh, that's my deal, I can't share any information. People are like, well, there's enough deals, there's enough money to go around, right? And that shift in the mindset, I think that was the biggest turning point of like, oh, I'm not worried, because I trust myself. And whatever happens in the future, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I know I will be able to figure out, right? And having that mental strength, and that's a life challenge, right? We're all working towards strengthening our mindset and really having that inner peace, so that we can protect our energy and our spirit. And so I think those things are what helped me, and hopefully that resonates with some of you guys.
Yeah, I love all of these lessons, Chloe, because that has helped you to overcome your challenges, develop your confidence, borrow it from other people's if you needed to for a while because of the
Yes.
knowledge. And you nail a couple of these points. Follow up. I don't know if you have experienced this, but I went to multiple real estate networks,
Mhm.
and they know what I do, they know how I am, and they give me their business cards. They sound like they're excited. They're 1 point away. I actually, some of them share their deals and say, I need money. And I look at it, it's like, I will look into this deal. So I keep their business cards, and they never follow up, even when they have my information. And I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, and there goes your deal. It tells a lot about who you are when you don't follow through. So
Mhm.
if you don't follow through someone, and you don't communicate, and you don't share, what makes you think I will lend you money for this project, or that I will recommend you to get, to work with someone else? It's as simple as that, fundamentals. And I think that that's one of the things that you're really good at it. Fundamentals on that. And because you have received all of these knowledge and from abundance mindset, you're also willing now to share what you have learned through house hacking. And I think that's very commendable. And I just, I'm hoping that people that's cashing in all the great nuggets you're sharing with them to really take their life to the next steps, to the lifestyle, the one, Chloe. Now, one last question for you.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
you're mentoring, you're out there. I know Chloe have developed an amazing network of women. And she's out there looking up, she's out there figuring out role models. Who is someone that you're looking up to that, you know, I want to figure out how she did it because this is my next step. And why is that?
Oh man, there's so many role models, right? But I think the first person that comes to my mind is Sarah Blakely, right? Not
Yeah.
necessarily in real estate, but I think the fact that, she started as like a door-to-door fax saleswoman, and then also I think the fact that like she was listening to Wayne Dyer, which is one of like the self-development person, since she was in high school, right? Like she talks about like no other friend wanted to get into her car because she's always listening to that, right? And just having that like resilience, right? She, didn't really raise any money while she was, building up Spanx. And to be able to have that kind of grit and resilience, but also like positivity, right? If you listen to her talk, she never says anything, negative, right? Positivity and just the drive to do that. But also I feel like she sounds really humble whenever I hear her, right? And I think that's a really big thing, is like how to not become an egotistic person because you are equating your self-worth with, the accomplishments that you've had, right? We all know entrepreneurs who kind of became this egotistic, narcissistic personality, right? But instead of that, she stayed humble, right? She is still, trying to help women and have that empowerment, right? And also having like 4 kids and a husband, right? And like while building a $1 billion business. I'm like, how'd you do it? And how'd you like keep your sanity and this like, joy for life while you're building these businesses? And I think that the one that, the thing that kind of comes to my mind is like, she looks very aligned with her purpose, right? She wants to create this product that's going to help, millions and millions of women, right? It has a very direct impact on their quality of life, right? I think that's so admirable. And, however I do it, replicate it in my life, like I want to emulate. And I think having role models like that is amazing because I'm like, I thought that I was the only weirdo who was listening to these self-development, audiobooks in my car, nonstop, right? I am not alone. The fact that she's doing it, I love it, right? So
Yes, I mean, being weird is nothing wrong with being weird. I call it being an outlier, being different,
Mhm,
and standing your power, knowing that it's okay to be you. And that's
mhm,
the best solution you can find for your lifestyle. Become you, become authentic, become
yeah.
resilient, and find the way. And that's something I love about you, Chloe. You have found your way, you continue to grow. And I think this can serve for a lot of inspiration for a lot of people out there listening to this interview. So, thank you so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate it. And we will make sure that people can connect with you. I will put the information at the bottom. Thank you so much, Chloe.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for having me here. And I had such a great time.
Awesome. Thank you.